Saṁyutta Nikāya, the Connected Discourses, Sagāthāvagga Saṁyutta, Devatā Saṁyutta, Āditta Vagga, section on the blazing fire, Sutta number 1.41, Āditta Sutta, blazing fire. This is what I personally heard. Once, while the Blessed One was living at Anathapindika's monastery in Savathi's Jeta's park, as the night had advanced and all had retired to their kutis, a stunningly beautiful Deva appeared, brilliantly illuminating the entirety of Jeta's park, and by approaching the Blessed One, paid homage to him. Now, having stood to one side, that Deva began reciting the following inspired verses in the presence of the Blessed One. While your house is being destroyed by fire, and everything in it is going up in smoke, what you try hard to protect and save from the advancing flames are not the pots and other valuables that are already charred and now rendered useless, but those that are untouched by the destructive blaze. So, while existence burns in its fiery blaze, as the flames of aging and death keep raging on, one must fearlessly challenge oneself by reaching deep and pull out from one's wealth and just keep on giving, because all that's valuable to oneself, when given, is what really gets saved. After all, when one shares and gives away, what comes back as its fruit truly is happiness. But that is not the case when one does not give nor shares. For thieves, robbers, rulers, and kings, sooner or later will be coming for it, and at the very least one loses it all to blazing fires. In the end, this cherished body, along with the life one has lived, will be left behind, next to all that one possessed and held dear. By understanding the absolute validity in this truth, the wise person who, while enjoying what he has, nevertheless lives with an open hand, by being generous and sharing what he has, according to his means and resources, and in having lived a blameless life, that person takes rebirth in the heavenly realms. Sutta number 1.42. Kiṁdada Sutta. By giving away what? At one time, a Deva approached and asked the Blessed One these questions. By giving what away would one be giving others endurance and power as well? By giving what away would one be giving others beauty also? By giving what away would one be giving others a sense of ease and happiness too? And by giving away what would one be giving others the ability to see? I ask now as to who is the ultimate giver, when considered all these ways of giving. Kindly reveal to me the answer to my questions. And the Blessed One said, by giving away food, one gives others endurance and power as well. By giving away clothing, one gives others beauty also. By giving away a mode of transport, one gives others a sense of ease and happiness too. By giving away a lamp, one gives others the ability to see. As to who is the ultimate giver, when considered all these ways of giving, that happens to be the one who provides a safe place to stay for those who have none. However, the ultimate giver, who remains superior to all these, is the one who gives away the Dhamma by teaching it to others. For he truly is giving to others the very gift of the deathless. Sutta number 1.43. Anoma Sutta. Delight in food. They keep looking for ways to experience more delight, indulging themselves in eating and consuming food, both devas and humans alike. But could there ever be such a being, such a spirit, who would not enjoy food nor delight in it? Those who give with trust and confidence, while the heart remains pure and tranquil by the act of giving, then they will partake of food that is given to them to enjoy, both in this and in the other world. So, just remove the stains of stinginess from your heart, and vanquish the miser in you by offering a gift from the heart. For those experiencing delight are being supported by the merits of such deeds, be it in this world or when they gain birth in the next. Sutta number 1.44. Ekamūla Sutta. The single root. A deva then spoke by uttering this verse. The abyss which the sage crossed is supported by a single root with its twin whirlpools, along with 3 defilements that stain, possessing 5 extensions, not to mention an entire ocean with its 12 whirlpools. Sutta number 1.45. Anoma Sutta. Unmatched. At one time, a deva, while addressing the Blessed One, spoke this verse. Look carefully at the unmatched one, who cannot be captured by a mere name, the one who provides wisdom to all, yet remains aloof and untouched by things to do with sensuality, the one who sees everything, knowing all that needs to be known, the wise sage who always treads on this noble path. Sutta number 1.46. Accharā Sutta. Host of nymphs. Once, a frustrated deva exclaimed in verse, "It's so boisterously loud, being surrounded by this host of nymphs. It feels almost like being trolled by a host of haunting demons with nowhere to find peace. This garden should be called the trap of delusion. For how can anyone dwell here in comfort and be freed from all this madness?" And the Blessed One responded in verse. Straight is the name of this path, and fearless is the destination to which this unfailingly accurate path will lead you. The wheels of this chariot are neither wobbly nor unsteady, for they are secured in place by all that is the Dhamma. Being wise in moral shame is the steering station, to which the charioteer leans against. Maintaining mindfulness is all the things he needs to ride the chariot successfully. the Dhamma itself becomes one's own driver, wherein right view itself leading you every inch of the way. Whoever possesses such a vehicle, be they a man or a woman, when living life while riding this chariot, surely draws closer and closer the Nibbana itself, thus attaining the Supreme. Sutta number 1.47. Vanaropā Sutta. Those who plant trees. At one time, a deva asked in verse, "Who are those whose merits continuously grow, whether by day or by night? Who are those who, being firmly anchored in the Dhamma, behaving and genuinely living their lives with virtue, are headed straight to heavenly birth?" And the Blessed One responded in verse, "Those who plant trees, building sanctuaries of forests and parks, those who spend the time risking and toiling away to build bridges connecting lives, all those who dig a well, providing safe drinking water for all, those who build homes for all those in need. It is indeed they whose merits continuously grow, whether by day or by night. They are the ones who, being firmly anchored in the Dhamma, behaving and genuinely living their lives with virtue, are headed straight to heavenly birth." Sutta number 1.48. Jetavana Sutta, Jeta's Park. After his death, desiring to pay a visit to the Blessed One, Anathapindika, now a deva, came back to Jeta's park, and while addressing the teacher, spoke these verses of gratitude and praise. Ah, this unmistakably is the Jeta's park indeed, the grove where the noble Sangha would gather and stay, the place where so many more would come from afar and wide to see the Master and stay. Here is where the King of the Dhamma himself would often stay. Ah, the very place where my heart found such joy, peace, and gladness. One washes away his dirt not by where he comes from or what clan, family name, status, or wealth he may possess, but it is only through proper and virtuous actions, understanding, living with high principles, and thereby through pure living that he cleanses himself and not anything else. For this reason, any smart and considerate person, on realizing all that is truly beneficial and helpful to him in the long run, should quickly begin applying and examining that which is taught in the Dhamma, and thus work on purifying himself through it. Sariputta is indeed brimming with wisdom, the very embodiment of virtue, dwelling within peace. He truly is unequaled by other bhikkhus, who at best could only aspire and try to emulate him in his purity. Sutta number 1.49. Macchari Sutta, the Stingy. At one time, a deva addressed the Blessed One while speaking in verse. The stingy ones who live their lives with closed fists, those miserly characters, lacking generosity, are found abundantly in the world, while remaining unwilling to give even a little bit from the plenty they have. Still, they become obstacles for others who genuinely desire to give alms and be generous. Now, what is to become of such stingy people, those who engage in such miserly behavior? What will be the results of their selfish actions in the future, for their staunch desire to live without generosity? We've come here to ask and learn the answer to this question from the Blessed One's own lips. Kindly do give us the answer we seek. And the Blessed One replied, the stingy ones who live their lives with closed fists, those miserly characters, lacking generosity, that are found abundantly in the world, while remaining unwilling to give even a little bit from the plenty they have, still become obstacles for others who genuinely desire to give alms and be generous. Their next destination of birth will be those of the hell realms, the animal realms, or other miserable realms where Yama rules. But if they happen to be reborn into the human realm, then they will land into a poor family in destitute, a world where all things such as food, shelter, clothing, pleasure, and fun, not to mention security, will all be so limited and difficult to obtain or enjoy. Furthermore, even that which is very basic to live a normal life, things that are fairly expected from others, such as acknowledgement or recognition, those things too will remain so difficult to obtain for such stingy people. These are therefore the fruits they'll have to face in their future births, in their next destinations, for living miserly lives with closed fists today, here in this very birth. Then the Deva asked the Blessed One a further question, while continuing in verse. We comprehend and welcome your explanation, and now would like to ask another question, O Gautama. What can be declared about those other beings who now, having been born as human beings, enjoy much prosperity, beauty, as well as living without any stinginess, not to mention their level of trust and faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma he proclaims, and the Sangha of noble ones, to whom they offer much veneration and heartfelt respect. Those beings who, being amiable and lovely to behold, what will their future lives be? What will be the results of their selfless actions in the future? For their desire to live with generosity? We've come here to ask and learn the answer to this question as well from the Blessed One's own lips. Kindly do give us the answer we seek. And the Blessed One replied, as to those others who now, having been born as human beings, who enjoy much prosperity, beauty, as well as living without any stinginess, not to mention their level of trust and faith in the Buddha, the Dhamma I proclaim, and the Sangha of noble ones, to whom they offer much veneration and heartfelt respect, those beings who, being amiable and lovely to behold, they light up the entire heavens indeed, with the very joy they bring with them, wherever they may open their eyes in their next rebirths. But if they happen to be reborn into the human realm, then they will land into an affluently rich family, in much wealth and prestige, a world where all things such as food, shelter, clothing, pleasure, and fun, not to mention security, will all be abundantly available for them to enjoy. Furthermore, these beings will rejoice, like devas who are given ownership of others' creations and riches. These are therefore the fruits they'll enjoy in their future births, in their next destinations, for living such generous lives with open hands today, here in this very birth. Sutta number 1.50. Ghaṭīkāra Sutta. Discourse to Ghaṭīkāra. At one time, the Deva, Ghaṭīkāra, addressed the Blessed One in verse by saying, 7 bhikkhus, who, after their human deaths, reappeared in Avijja, are now fully released. They, who have completely destroyed both lust and hatred, by removing them from their heart, have finally crossed over and are now freed from all entanglements to existence. And the Blessed One replied with a question in verse. And who might be those of whom you speak? The 7 who are now freed from the sticky bog that is death's domain. The ones who crossed the muggy swamp called existence, having left behind this human life with all its trappings, by overcoming even the celestial snares. And Ghaṭīkāra, the Deva, continued addressing the Blessed One in verse as he answered. The 7 of whom I speak are the Venerables Upaka and Palaganda, along with Pukkusati, making up 3, joined by Bhaddya, Bhaddadeva, Bahudanti, and Pingya as well, all of whom, on having left behind the human life with all its trappings, have now even overcome the celestial traps too. And the Blessed One responded with a further question in verse. The words you speak are indeed true, of those who are now released from Mara's grip. But tell me, whose teaching was it that enabled these 7 to destroy the shackles that bind? What was the Dhamma, by listening to and understanding which they are now set free from the chains of existence? Then the Deva, Ghaṭīkāra, replied delightedly while addressing the Blessed One in verse. It was none other than the Blessed One himself, and the Dhamma he proclaimed to these nobles. It was the very teaching you generously gave to them, by listening to and heeding which they understood, and thus set themselves free from the chains of existence, where name and form, as well as the perception of things having to do with form, are all completely cut off and held in check, left with no remainder whatsoever. It is by fully comprehending this very truth taught within this Dhamma that they set themselves free from the chains of existence. To this, the Blessed One replied by asking yet another question, again in verse. The words you speak are quite profound and difficult to comprehend for most. Deeply challenging, in fact, for most to come to understand and grasp its full meaning. Whose Dhamma teaching was it that you were able to penetrate, whereby you now can speak so lucidly on these matters? And Ghaṭīkāra, the Deva, replied by addressing the Blessed One in verse. Long time ago, I worked as a potter in the region of Vebhalinga, in a village called Ghaṭīkāra. There, I lived while supporting and taking care of my parents, while also serving and practicing as a lay follower, an upasaka of the Buddha Kassapa. I lived the holy life, avoiding sensuality and all pleasures of the flesh, practicing celibacy as I completely abstained from sexuality. It was there, while living such a life, in that village, together, that you and I both called each other friend. I am therefore one who knows and sees how these noble bhikkhus are now fully freed, who, having completely destroyed both lust and hatred by removing them from their heart, have finally crossed over and are now freed from all entanglements to existence. The Blessed One then spoke by saying these words in verse. And so it was, O Bhagava, so it was indeed. For just like you said in the past, long time ago, you worked as a potter in the region of Vebhalinga, in the village called Ghaṭīkāra. There, you lived while supporting and taking care of your parents, while also serving and practicing as a lay follower, an upasaka of the Buddha Kassapa. You lived the holy life, avoiding sensuality and all pleasures of the flesh, practicing celibacy as you completely abstained from sexuality. It was there, indeed, while living such a life in that village together, that you and I both called each other friend. And so it was that after such a long time, these two noble old friends in the Dhamma met each other yet again, but this time fully evolved, having now both completed their own spiritual task, and thus bearing the burden of their final physical body. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.